All right. We are live, sir.
All right. What's up?
Not much. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I've been kind of looking forward to be able to have this conversation with you.
Yep.
Is that your
No, that's
latest
just
award?
this is my table. My table. Thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't think you need much of an introduction. But for those of us that are coming in, today I have the pleasure of having Sam Scales join me today for our for our conversation this afternoon. Um, so, are you have any events coming up recently?
Recently, I mean, I skipped two recent events so that I could focus more on Aquashella.
Oh, okay.
And
So
Aquashella's next week. So
now, as far as I understand, you're really involved with Aquashella as far as putting it together and stuff like that.
yeah, I work for Aquashella, so
Oh, okay.
I'm one of the setup crew. So
So
setup crew, social media, all that stuff.
when do you hit the ground?
I'll be there on the first, and then we immediately start putting together the show together.
Oh, okay. So are you in charge of just about everything, or is it just that the entrance that usually they have the black lights to it, or
No, that's one.
how?
I'm a rover. I do a lot of things for a lot of different set areas, but I do that part a lot. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So and then after Aquashella, because I that's one of the things that I have noticed that when I've been following you on Instagram, it seems like there isn't too many events that you don't participate.
Right. No,
So what's
I try to do as many of the biggest events I can. I also work for a Super Show
okay,
and Aqua Expo.
okay. So
So
what what
I'm an event specialist. Let's put it that way.
and that's what you do full time now, huh?
No, full time. I'm an artist. That's just like side. That's a related gig.
Oh,
So
okay.
so basically
So
that assures me travel, hotel, and booth.
oh, very nice.
Mhm.
So you're obviously what you said your booth. So you every at all of these events, one of the benefits is that you actually get to set up a booth and sell some of your art there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's what's expected of me. So
So you're there for more than just a couple of days then, because if you're coming, is
Oh, yeah, I'm
Aquashella
there.
the only one that you help set up, or are you involved in
No,
setting
I
up
all
some of the?
those other two shows I helped set up also.
Okay,
Yeah, the Super Show, which is that I'm new to Super Show, but I've known Super Show since it started. So I've been
okay.
I was part of the crew that came up with the idea for that.
Oh, very nice.
Mm.
So how with the Super Show, I'm not too familiar with because I don't think I've seen that very.
Well, everyone will know what Super Show is after this because Super Show started off as Reptile Super Show,
Okay.
and Reptile Super Show has had 48 shows,
Oh,
and
about 48.
yeah, 48 shows, and by the time the mega show comes, which is June 29 and 30, then that'll be the biggest show in the history of the U.S.
Now the 48 shows are in different cities throughout the country, or
No, just on the West Coast.
oh,
So,
just on the West Coast. So what are some of the bigger cities that the Super Show
well, they do
comes to?
Anaheim and Pomona every year. Then they also do the Bay Area, Sacramento,
Oh, okay.
and they've done a few other shows. They've done Arizona and Las Vegas,
Oh,
and
okay. I haven't seen the one in Arizona. I got to keep an eye out for. Is there a website or somewhere
yeah,
where you
it's
can save?
LA Pet Fair is the parent site. So
Okay,
it's lapetfair.com. And
okay.
this is going to be a massive show.
And now is this the first time they're doing the aquatic show,
This is the
or
first time they're doing the aquatic show, and that's why they brought me in. So
no? Very nice. So is the idea to try to fill the void from Aquashella over here on the West
yeah,
Coast? Is that?
there's no West Coast anything. I mean, there's two little shows on the West Coast. One is in Sacramento, the Findig,
Mm-hmm.
and then their other one is Fishtoberfest. So I attended both of those this year, but they're small. You know, they're a
No.
couple hundred would be a high estimate
Okay.
for the
Is that
attendance.
be, is that because they're relatively new, or they
No,
just?
because they're just club
Oh,
run.
okay. I get it.
So it's not about them being new at all. It's about their small dreams, you know.
So on the super shows, is there anything you can talk about to kind of expectations, people what they would be able to see, or is that still something that it's kind of not being divulged?
Say it again. I'm not sure I understand that one.
Well, can you talk about the event itself? What people
Oh
can
yeah,
expect at the event?
yeah. So the last couple reptile super shows have covered, uh, 3 acres. They're not measured by square feet. They're measured by acres. And this one is supposed to be about 6 acres. Um, so this one's going to have it's like hangar style events.
Okay.
So the Pomona Fairgrounds is the largest fairgrounds in the U.S. and they have 3 buildings. We're going to use all of them. Um, one is going to be Aquarium Super Show. The other one's going to be Reptile Super Show, and then the Pet Fair, which is like the furry animals and birds and stuff like that. And then a Plant Super Show is going to be all combined.
Oh, okay. So they're gonna have like houseplants too.
Yeah, it started off as a succulent show, and that's how he
Okay.
has it marketed as. But it's actually there's going to be orchids and succulents and carnivorous plants and the green leaf, foliage plants, all the stuff. It's all popular. The plants really got a boost when COVID lockdowns happened. Just like people got into plants for some reason.
Mm. Well, it's like the fish hobby and everything else. People had extra time, so they were trying to find stuff to do.
Yep. And now that people are working at home a lot, a lot of them are just getting plants and aquariums and stuff.
Oh, okay. Now the only thing is, I don't. Is there a lot of advertisement that there's being done for these shows? Because
Well,
I
he,
know
he,
the
he
first
has
time
a
I heard.
huge advertising budget. So he has advertised quite a bit for Reptile Super Show. He has billboards all over Southern California. And then,
What's he doing social media wise?
well, that's where people like myself come in. We as soon as this aquashell is over, then we go on this aggressive marketing campaign. And
Oh,
it's not designed. The show's not designed to compete with Aquashella. The show's designed to fill a void
oh, okay.
because there is really no Southern California really has no freshwater
Mhm.
type show, and this is going to be both salt and freshwater. But the thing is, it has the largest potential market in the whole
Okay.
country. We're talking about 20 million people in the area,
Yeah.
plus
Yeah, and
plenty more not a far drive from it.
yeah, out here in the West Coast, the closest thing we get is if you drive out to Dallas or fly out to Dallas to be able to do an event.
Yeah, to do Super Show. I mean, to do Aquashella.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that'll be interesting. Is it going to strictly stay in California, or are they going to venture
Well,
to do
this is
something?
it's a trial run, so we have to see
Yeah.
how it's going to be taken. I suggested to Rami. Rami is the owner of Super Show, and he and I used to work together at a very large aquarium shop in San Diego. And
Okay. Is that the one you
so
helped put together that I've talked about in the past?
I put together about 15 stores, so I don't know
Okay.
which one.
Yeah, no, the one that I associate you with is Aquarium
Aquarium
Depot.
Fish Depot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Aquarium Fish Depot, ironically, is they just sold.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they just sold to a reef guy, and so he's called STX Corals or something like that.
Mm,
And he's not a very well known person or anything like that, but he bought the infrastructure,
yeah.
and they took down a lot of it. They kind of ruined what it was. It used to be this
Well,
amazing
I,
rare
I
fish specialty store. So
I found out about you guys
mhm.
because of Ben Olchart. He had
Yeah,
gone down,
Beno Chart did some videos there, and
and then I saw that video, and I happened to be in the San Diego area, and I went up there, and I think you guys had just finished installing all the stuff because that was the second time. The very first time I went was immediately after Ben had toured the store, and it was still in the opening process.
right.
And I think he had a little blip with you where you were talking about what the process had been and stuff like that. And then found your guys' channel, started following the YouTube channel, and when I came to do my tour of the store, it had just had its grand opening.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but that
Um,
was, I understand. I know what you're saying because when I went to that store, one of the things that was so appealing about it is that you guys had really thought about, like people that like doing the aquascaping because you guys had set up the sand tables. They had
yeah.
access to all the hardscape, the driftwood, and you can
Yep.
go in there and put it all together. And if I remember correctly, they had it sectioned off so that if you knew the dimensions of your aquarium, you could actually do a dry run with all the hardscape and have an idea what it was going to look like in your aquarium.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something I wanted to do is make sure that it was, you know, easy for customers to use the store.
Yeah,
And
and I didn't realize at the time. Now I just kind of I remember seeing a lot of the artwork, and I remember seeing the signature on it, which I thought was very interesting. But I had no idea that was you until a few years down the road when I saw some stuff. Exactly, and it was so interesting because even the last time I went, and I didn't, yeah, I did film some of that stuff in there. Um, some of that artwork was still there, which is kind of cool. But at that time, I already knew whose it was.
right.
So
um,
are you still supplying artwork for them or
no, I mean, I
oh, is it him or is it me? Anyways, Jeff, thank you very much for those memberships. I I appreciate you gifting those. It looks like Coral Works. Let's see, June. Thank you so much. Let me go up here and do a little bit of housekeeping. I don't know if it's yeah. I think it's Sam having a little bit of issues with it. Well, Coral, thank you for being here today. Tommy, thank you very much. Linda, Kyle, thank you. Ian, Tomatillo, Tom, how you doing, buddy? Linky, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Sarah, thank you very much. Craig, thank you for being here. Roxy, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Let's see who else do we have in here. Jeff, thank you very much for those gifts. Did you re-gift again? Thank you, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let me see who else. Am I missing anybody? I think that's everybody for right now. For those of you that are just tuning in, I have the great pleasure of having Sam from Scales, and we were just chatting up. Uh, I haven't. This is really the first time that I really get to have a conversation with him. He's one of the few people that I've never really spoken to before. I know we've communicated in the chats and other people's streams, but this is the first time that I actually get to interact with him one on one. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring him is because I know that he's been highly involved
yeah,
with.
I'm back.
All right, I know he's been highly involved with trying to put together events for the West Coast because that's one of the biggest complaints that we hear from us hobbyists in the West Coast that there isn't, or not that there isn't, but there wasn't the awareness of events happening here in the West Coast. And one of the things is like, oh, we wish we could get an Aquashella, but from what I'm understanding from Sam, that's about to happen in a different scale, not necessarily under the same corporate, but having a company that is willing to fill that void, and that's what we were talking about before Sam got cut off.
Yeah. So, yeah, there are really we have discussed, with the owner of Aquashella, Sean, and some of the staff, Adam Clayton, Jacob Blankenship, Jonathan Cohen, Evie, all them. We had previously discussed about trying to find something in the West Coast that we could add to the Aquashella lineup, but because the market was ripe for it, and even with Reefa Palooza and with the reef stock in Colorado, those are marine things, and they've come out here to the West Coast before, but it hasn't really. We've never really seen freshwater out here, and
Yeah, the only event that I can think of was Reefa Palooza that was coming out here that I've seen advertised. But
yeah, we
again,
had we had Reefa Palooza this past year in Anaheim, and we have it regularly, and like we've had it in Pomona before and stuff like that. But
yeah, but do those events it's strictly saltwater or do they actually have
yeah, Reefa
freshwater events?
Palooza is strict is primarily, let me say primarily saltwater, because this past year they had UNS, and in order for UNS to get their freshwater foot in the door, they had to make saltwater stuff. So they made saltwater stuff, and then I think Riva Palooza's, their eyes, I forget the guy's name that runs that, but their eyes opened wide when they realized, half a, 1,000 people came to the show because they wanted to come see UNS and get a free rimless tank from UNS. And these rimless tanks are not used for saltwater tanks. They're used for freshwater.
So they were giving away little starter kits.
They
Is that
gave
what they
away
were doing?
2,000 aquariums.
Oh my God, that's a lot.
Yeah, ranging anywhere in price from like $45 to like $250. Gave
So
them
what?
away.
But was it like door gifts or was it
No, they just gave them
raffles?
away to the first 2,000 people.
Oh wow,
The first
wow.
1,000 people each day.
So the turnout, I imagine, was pretty successful for them.
Yeah, it was good for that smaller venue, and it's not a gigantic venue. Um, Super Show is going to be a huge venue. I'm
Well,
almost like curious as to how we're gonna get people into that. When you're thinking about a 5-acre show, and then you only have 2 days to walk it.
yeah. Well, I
Six
guess
acres.
from what I was looking at the website, it's kind of broke. Is it going to be broken down into four different distinct sections?
Well,
And
it's going to
where
be like the aquarium and the plants are going to be in the same building, and then the birds are going to be in a building, and then the reptiles are going to be in a building. But the buildings are all connected.
okay,
The
so
buildings that, like, you just
you'll be
walk
able to walk.
across. Yeah, it's from
Okay, because I
they're
know
like
it's the fairgrounds, right, in Pomona,
yeah.
where they're
If
having.
you've been to Pomona Fairgrounds, it's a fairgrounds. Yeah, it's like the best looking fairgrounds there is, because they don't have these like tent buildings. They have real buildings.
So what are you guys' expectations as far as numbers?
Oh,
What would you guys call a success for
well, I
the
mean, if
event?
you think about it, we've gotten over 15,000 people into just a reptile show. So our expectations is a minimum of 15,000 people, which is double the size of Aquashella already.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that'll be real interesting, and it's only going to be a 2 day event. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, I told them next time we gotta go 4 or 3, you know. But now I've been to a really big reptile show this year, and it's actually in the same building as Aquashella is taking place in Daytona, the Ocean Center, and
Yes.
that was bigger than what Aquashella is, because it was 2 rooms. It was a giant room and a smaller room. So in this one for Aquashella, we're just using the giant room.
Okay. Now for the event, are they going to be doing anything as far as kind of catering to content creators, or is it
Well,
just
he's
strictly?
starting to bring those in. So we've actually reached out to Joey from DIY, and he was just down here in LA doing Escape Off with Mark Chen, and Mark Chen's definitely going to be there. Mark Chen is TMK Aquarius. So we're going to try to get other people. I'm going to try to get Diver Man out, and
Should be entertaining.
yeah, no, Josh is a good guy. I think he needs to have more exposure. And there's a lot of course, the local, Corey. I'm sure Corey Dorable is going to be there. We'll get all the California influencers will definitely be there. Just if not because they're invited just on their own. So I'm going to I have some meetings as soon as this year is over. I have meetings with Rami, and we'll figure out who we need to invite and we need to bring in, all that stuff. But shows nowadays, it's not the whole, year and a half long planning anymore.
So so what for this one? I know that they're going to do the one in Pomona based off of the success of that. How far are you guys wanting to venture on the West Coast?
Oh, we don't know, man. It really depends. I think northern and southern California is the real base, because those are 2 big population centers. And with the shows the magnitude that we do, we don't want to go to like a small venue. You know what I mean? We don't need to compete with with Aquashella in Dallas, but that's the next big center, you know.
Oh yeah,
Um,
'cause I know I've heard this mentioned a couple of times from different people. The problem, I guess, is that um, most of the West, or there's more of a willingness, it seems like, for people in the West Coast to try to go to some of the events on the East Coast,
yeah,
but it's not reciprocal. Like people in the East Coast really don't travel out this
yeah.
way
I don't know
either.
why. I, I mean, I know part of it's political. You know, like they have this idea that California is some big like mega liberal like fascist country of its own. You know, but it really isn't. And then there is always the problem of our gas being like $6 a gallon, and
Well, I think it's
and
gas and it's
our hotels are
yeah.
expensive. You know, everything's expensive. Our Uber probably costs more. um, and it's just everything out here is expensive. It's a misrun state. You know. Um,
So for those that are interested in traveling into Pomona, is there the infrastructure to have like lodging, like hotels that are within the vicinity there,
oh, it's
or are
it's
they going
it's
to have
Los
to?
Angeles County, so
Well, I know, but that's the problem in LA County. Trying to commute sometimes, which should be a 15-minute drive ends up being an hour drive. But is there immediately around that facility? Is there
yeah. I
places
mean,
where people could?
it's right off a freeway, so there's plenty of places out there because there's a lot of events that happen there. So there's like NASCAR type stuff and all that happens out there.
Oh, so they have that speedway out there in Pomona, right?
Yeah,
It's also that
almost.
same
Yeah,
site.
that's it's the same
Okay.
thing.
Okay. So
Hmm.
yeah, that is a pretty nice facility out there. Now, is there I know there's something that I started seeing recently, and I know you and I have spoke about this a little bit more, but people not might be aware. Houston is having an event
Yeah,
this
I'm
month.
probably going to be attending that. It's December. It's called Aquarium Nation and Reptile Nation. It's actually competitor, a reptile competitor of Super Show because they both compete for the San Diego market.
Oh,
And
okay.
so we have, I attend both shows, and the I guess they tried to get a jump start on Super Show. The Super Show came up with the idea first for the aquarium thing, and then Houston Reptile Nation decided to go. Let's do Aquarium Nation, and let's try to get a head start on them. But their head start is in Houston, not on the West Coast.
Yeah, no, that's it's for anybody in the West Coast. It's almost a 24-hour drive just to get out there. So
Hmm.
I think it's suitable. The only ones that I would have to worry with them competing would be Aquashella because they have it in Dallas, but
Yeah,
they're not at the same weekend. So
no, they're far apart. Especially it depends. Like we did a little bit of shifting, if you didn't notice. So there's a couple logistically when you do a show, you have to make sure the weather is good. It can't be too hot, it can't be stormy, and and it can't be too cold. So when we have stormy Florida. For Aquashell, we have stormy Florida. Then we have burning hot Texas, and then we have the potential for snow in Chicago. Um, so you got to put all those things together and consider what's the best time to do each show in what area. So we did a little bit of shifting this last year because we canceled Chicago for a year, but we should be able to recover nicely now that we're going back to Chicago.
yeah, and it's kind of interesting that Chicago was the one that was eliminated because isn't that the birthplace of Aquashella? That's where the
Yeah,
very
but
first show.
Chicago is very expensive. So that's why we moved. Actually, we moved to Daytona from Orlando because we're spending half the money, uh, which is a big deal when you're talking about a show.
Well, yeah, because it's not. It's
Orlando is designed around Disney,
mm.
so Orlando can break people and can definitely break someone that's organizing a show.
Well, that's the same reason you probably don't see any of those big events moving to San Diego. As much as I love San Diego, it's
Well,
just in trying to spend the night in San Diego, you're going to be out almost $400 on a weekend.
I am going to do some research on if I can get one out here. because in Chula Vista, which is close to where I live in South San Diego, but Chula Vista is nearby. They are building a Gaylord Resorts and Convention
Okay.
Center, and it's going to be the biggest. It's the biggest building in Chula Vista, or the tallest building, and it's going to be a Chula Vista is going to have its own like convention center now, so which they haven't had in the past. And for anyone who doesn't know what Chula Vista is the largest suburb of San Diego that's not called San Diego.
Well, for all of us, San Diego encompasses all the way
Yeah,
up to Oceanside. It's pretty
yeah,
much
and we
San
have
Diego.
well, we have the Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista, and Chula Vista is huge. Chula Vista is a long city. It's like it goes all the way from the East County where Otay Lakes is, and it comes all the way to the coast where that convention center is going to be.
Well, and then what's nice, it's a lot easier to get around the Chula Vista area because you're not in downtown San Diego where it's just a nightmare to travel.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier to access in and out of Chula Vista.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that would be pretty smart too. Plus, you got the upside, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this, but you have Tijuana on the other side, and there's a humongous aquarium population down there.
Oh yeah, that's it. We don't even count that 5 million people reach to Tijuana because not everyone can come over. You know?
Well, but there's a lot of people that do it, and I know that
Yeah.
because I interact with a lot of them. I'm actually in part of some of those Facebook groups, and the same stores that like a lot of these stores that I've done tours on, they've been to them and they're familiar with them because you can get a lot of the products you can't get down in Mexico. But every day that border crossing has an excess of what is it, two
It's the busiest international border crossing in the world.
yeah. There's a daily commute. I mean, sometimes it's not uncommon for people to do a 3 or 4 hour commute just trying to cross the border. So
Yeah, and there's
that's
plenty of cartel money coming from there too.
yeah.
But I was gonna say, like, a couple of my friends have aquarium shops down in Mexico, and they come up to California to up to San Diego here to get their stuff, because they don't have like a central pet down there,
Yeah, no, there
So
isn't. Uh, there's a lot of little small shops, and Tijuana has a little bit better than some of the other cities just because of the proximity to San Diego.
well, yeah,
Um,
Pet Center is down there. He's got a couple shops, and I forget the name of the other one, but and Kalimax had some pet stuff down there too. And so yeah, from where I live, you can sit on my roof and you can see most of Tijuana. So
so
it's a dense city.
so backtracking a little bit, and focusing a little bit more on you. Um, how does this whole you getting associated with all these events and the hobby take us back a little bit to where you were a kid? When do you discover your passion for I mean marine wildlife, nature and all that stuff, and then eventually start doing artwork that's related to that?
Yeah. So
Can you talk a little bit about
as a
that?
kid, I was always drawing stuff, and believe it or not, the first thing I drew was airplanes. So I don't know, I was fascinated with airplanes, and then after that, I started drawing dinosaurs. Got fascinated with dinosaurs. I had a lot of little books that my parents bought me when I was younger, and I loved the little illustrations in there. Obviously, there's no photos of dinosaurs because there was no such thing as photos of dinosaurs. But I wanted to be one of those people that drew in those. And this is when I was like, single digit ages. And then, I lived in a couple different places as a child. So I lived in the Philippines too, and for 1 year, and then stayed in Hawaii for a little while. And I was actually born in Japan, and then we moved to Guam, and Guam is probably where I started my art career. My whole art fascination.
So what point do you start realizing people go, hey, you could do this for a living? I mean, when does that
Yeah, so
when does
let
that
me go back to that. So we moved here to San Diego when I was like 6 years old, and I had always been drawing. And I knew that was when I heard in school, oh, you can be an artist for a living. I immediately like I knew that's what I wanted to do. And then I went through elementary school, junior high, and then in high school, they had this inaugural program. They were building a nature center right here next to my house, and they had this inaugural program where people could take a class to work as an aquarist, at the show, and then learn all about the local ecology and stuff. And then you get a credit, an actual school credit. So I went to that. It's called the Chula Vista Nature Interpretive Center, and I went to that program in my ninth grade summer class. And me and a girl named Eileen, who is now still a professional aquarist, we were the only two that were under the legal working age of 15, right? So we were allowed to volunteer there because it was a working project, working class, and they somehow let us in without checking our ages, right? So we were in the class, but we had to fill all these waiver forms and stuff, and we were able to work there as volunteers until we turned 15, and then at 15 we both stayed on and we were getting paid. Me being a little bit younger than her, I was the youngest public aquarist in the country, and they
So
had
this
a
was actually working at an aquarium.
yeah, and at a public aquarium. So I was an aquarist. I was like maintaining. I was feeding the animals, taking care of them, maintaining the habitats and stuff. I was like the apprentice of the head aquarist over there. He like took me under his wing. John, rest in peace. And then they had this at the end of the class. They had this art competition where they sorry about that. Where they had this art competition where they just had anonymous artists could join to create a T-shirt for the center and for the city. And all the people that entered, like 15 different artists, or some there was like 40 different artists that entered, but then like they only chose 15 for all the board members of the city and the mayor and all that to take a look at. And I was the only student that entered. I was the only non-professional artist that entered. And I did something in pen and ink. I just drew in pen and ink all the iconic species of that marsh, of that conservation center.
Okay.
And it was a unanimous pick by all the judges. So,
Huh.
and so I won that, and I immediately, they paid me for that, and I immediately became at that point a professional artist.
Yeah.
So 14 years old, I hadn't turned 15 yet, and I was officially a professional artist.
So how are you developing? Are these skills that you learned through formal education, or just
No.
because you
Everything
had the
I've done
ability?
is self-taught. Everything I've
Okay.
done is self-taught. I'm an observer, so everything I learn, everything, all that, I learn by hands-on. The artwork, the knowledge of aquariums, medicating fish. I used to run a Facebook page about health, fish health. It's still up. I can give you a link for it later, but we're actually trying to revive it. And all the stuff I learned was from hands-on experience. It's not from someone telling me this is how it works. It's for me figuring out how things work and then applying it and then proving that it works. So I've always been that way. I worked in the 11th grade. I ran the facilities at Ocean Nutrition, the aquarium food company, and I ran the animal care facility there. So I
Okay.
tested all the products. I helped create all the new foods and all the new products.
So
And I actually,
what is that like to try to create a food line? I mean, what takes what it, are you guys trying different ingredients,
well,
or
the
is it
owner of the company was the head nutritionist for SeaWorld, so it was an easy start. So we basically, again, it's applying knowledge, applying what we know about fish nutrition and how how they behave and what are they lacking. So we were pretty instrumental in helping in the captive care of angelfish, saltwater angelfish and butterfly fish. and a lot of we actually had to do a lot of diving. I dove a lot in the Sea of Cortez and Florida and stuff, and we had to watch how they ate, and and then examine the stomach contents of dead specimens. And you're like, look, the reason they're dying in captivity and no one's keeping them alive in the aquarium hobby is because we're not feeding them the right stuff. And we figured out, which should have been common knowledge, and it should have been applied to the aquarium hobby, but it wasn't. Was that a lot of these fish would eat sponge and marine worms, and if they're eating that in the wild, then obviously there's some component of those foods that they are taking up, and it's essential probably to their development. So one of them was iodine from the worms, and then the other one, the sponge, the silicates from the sponge.
Okay. So, and this, I guess this is, I wasn't expecting to talk about this, but since you have a little bit of experience on that, what are some of the things that people should look for on the back of these labels to be able to tell the difference between a quality fish food and versus something that,
Well,
what are some of the things that you got to go and say, this stuff is nothing but fillers or,
yeah, avoid things that are heavy in starch. Like if there's potato, and if it's heavy in corn, corn is non-digestible by most creatures. I mean, we as humans, we know that we don't digest corn very well. We've all seen that. And yet we eat a ton of corn. It's a big filler. It's bad for our health. We take in a lot of glutens, and actually, gluten intolerance might not be necessarily about taking up gluten, but it may actually be about the pesticides involved with GMO products. So there's a lot of things that you got to avoid in fish food. My favorite fish food overall is omega, and the reason why is, no offense to anyone that I've worked with or promoted their products or anything like that, but the reason why is they don't use secondary products. They don't use meals that are uh, ground up, dried, powdered, and then reconstituted.
okay.
So they actually have a facility in Alaska, in Canada, that collects all of the ingredients that they use. So, and they don't just use bone meal or fish meal. They use fish. They use
So,
fish skin. They use fish scales. They use
so that's
they
what I
use
was trying to get. That's what I was
everything.
trying to get from you is which
Yeah. So nutrition, it's
ingredients.
important. It's important to replicate the natural diet, just like with humans. All we got to think about, it's easy to figure out fish health just by what we know about human health. A lot of the health problems that people have today have to do with all this processed stuff. And you know, um, artificial sugars. Those things are terrible. Artificial anything, and then there's no need to put dyes in certain things. There's no need to put red dyes. Fish food should be if there's going to be a red fish flake, it should be red because it has astaxanthin in it. Carotenes, carotenoids, basically shrimp. That's why it should be red. It shouldn't be like, candy apple red. Because if it was candy apple red, it's a dye. It's toxic to humans, yet we still have it in everything,
What is
right?
it, red dye number 4 or something like that? It makes
Yeah, it
it look
makes
like
kids hyperactive. It has ADHD. Um, you know, Babies that are being given dyes, they're probably developing. It's probably helping to develop autism.
so
Um,
on the ingredients, and when you're good looking at the ingredients list, you want to make sure that it's not the meal, but it's actually the protein
yeah, the,
itself.
the the pure product. My favorite person to talk to about fish nutrition is actually, um, God, what's his name? Clay. His name is Clay, and I don't know if he's still around. Clay Neighbors. He he was a guy that was helping to formulate a bunch of different foods for different companies,
Okay.
and I haven't seen him online for a long time, and he hasn't called me or anything like that. So I don't know if he's doing okay or what. But he was a very knowledgeable person on fish nutrition. He knew about digestion, amino acids. Those are things you got to think about too. Like you can put good stuff in a fish food, but if there's no way for them to assimilate it, for them to actually take the food in and utilize it, then it's no good, right? Because
Yeah.
they're just
So,
eating it and pooping it.
yeah, and I guess that's also a good sign of a food that they're benefiting from is the waste should be a lot less
Yeah,
if it's quality food, and they're
yeah.
because they're
So it doesn't matter how much volume of fish food you have in a container. I've talked to people about this before. I've mentioned it on other streams and stuff. Is that they can eat a lot of food, or you can buy a lot of food for a lot less. But if you're buying this repackaged, heavily wheat and potato starch food, you're basically getting less food for your money or less nutrition for your money. You know?
yeah, it's just filler products, stuff
Yeah.
that's gonna keep them full, but not necessarily provide the nutrients that they need. Hence, why you're gonna have a lot more waste, probably causing you to do more water changes more frequently, depending on how heavily stocked your aquarium is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have to be objective about things like protein levels. Like high protein, high protein as well. One trick that they do in China with Chinese made foods is that they'll add a plastic. It's like a artificial protein called melamine, and melamine is basically a type of plastic. You know,
Yeah,
so
isn't that also what they make the sponges to clean the aquarium glass? Also,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, but they killed. Remember when the dog food problem and cat food problem happened?
yes,
Where like so many, like thousands and thousands of dogs and cats died from Chinese foods. It's because they were artificially raising the protein level using melamine, and melamine's toxic to them. It coats the lining of their stomachs, and they end up dying. They can't digest any food. And the the reason that they were doing that is because they want to, because human Americans, sorry, they're so trained to all these paradigms, like, oh, high protein equals good quality, without, like I said, you got to be objective. Everything you do has to make sense.
yeah,
And just because something has high protein does not mean it's good. You know,
okay,
it's not math; it's science. So
yeah. So after getting involved with trying to do the food processing and all that, you get the recognition for your art piece. Now, how was that? What was that like? I mean, for you, knowing that you've competed against a bunch of you know artists that have been doing this for a year, and does does that all of a sudden trigger you to go, I could do this for a living?
no, no, not really. I was still busy with school. I was young, and I was like, still worried about um, going to college and traveling and doing all that kind of stuff. So back then there was no real show. The show circuit was there was no shows, right? There was one show. It was called International Reptile Breeders Association, and it was here in San Diego. And there was no other reptile shows across the country. Um, so people would come here from across the country to travel. That was a big deal to travel over here because all the big names of reptile people were here in San Diego. So one thing, a lot of people that might have talked to me before, they don't know is that I'm actually as big of a reptile person as I am a fish person. I'm as big of a saltwater person as I am a freshwater person.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram that
Yeah,
you.
and I work
But
in conservation too. I work in conservation, ecology, all that stuff, fisheries, which I'm a fisherman. So, mhm.
yeah, so
But that show, the International Reptile Breeders Association, the owner of it he had taken me under his wing also as another, as an apprentice. He was a mentor of mine, and he had given me boots all the time. Just me being young, he's like, yeah, why don't you try to sell some of your art here? Because I know you do a lot of art. At that time, I didn't know how to make reproductions of art. Because just the internet wasn't around, and there was no accessibility to like printing. You know. So I mean, I could make like a Xerox copy. Quality was terrible,
so there
and
were a lot of one-off pieces that you were selling at the
yeah.
early
So there was
shows.
no Giclée. Giclée is the professional inkjets. There was no at home in offset printing. There was no like local offset printing. So you'd have to send it off to a company like Color Q in Cincinnati. You'd have to send them a photograph, which they would scan, and then they would convert to an offset lithography. and then you'd have to buy like 500 prints, to make it worth it. So it just wasn't happening back then. And so everything I sold was original. And sadly,
have
there's
you
not a
co-
lot of record of all those original pieces that in the first like 15 years of my art, right?
I was gonna say, have you ever come across an original piece all these years after that?
Yeah, I went to someone's house not that long ago, and they had like 5 of my originals, and I totally forgot I sold them to them. So, and I looked at them and I took some pictures, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. I totally forgot I painted that. It's funny. A girl came up to me and she saw me painting at Starbucks. I do a lot of my watercolor paintings at the tables at Starbucks. There's a Starbucks with big tables, and I'll sit there for sometimes 8 hours doing work, and everybody knows me. Everybody comes up, says hi and stuff. But this girl comes up to me. She's a young girl, maybe like 18, 19 years old. And she's wait, I just seen that your signature on that piece. She goes, your name is Scalz? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, oh, I have a painting of yours. And I'm like, you do? She goes, yeah, it's a dolphin.
Uh,
And I'm like, a dolphin? I don't remember painting a dolphin. She goes, oh, you painted it for my mom's boyfriend when she was younger. He bought it off you. And I go, oh, my friend Danny. He bought it off of me, and he gave it to her.
oh, okay.
And then the mother, when her daughter got older, she loved that painting so much she gave it to her daughter.
Wow.
So because her daughter loved the painting, and she goes, so I have an original of yours. And she's like, I'm so excited to meet you. Like, and so she took a picture and then we sent it to her mom. And her mom's all, oh yeah, I remember that guy. And yeah, so and then one of the most unfortunate things that happened to me was I had this is a story that a lot of people knew about before. Because people actually helped me to rebuild my book collection when this tragedy happened. But I was moving from one house to another, and I had all my books, a lot of artwork, a lot of photographs. You know how photos were very delicate and
Yeah.
easy to damage. And I had that. I had memorabilia. I had all kinds of stuff. And I had it in a storage unit. So the neighboring storage unit, some guy was doing some work in there with candles, and he left some candles lit. And his candles burnt down his storage unit. It didn't burn my storage unit down, but the dang freaking fire department blasted water all throughout my storage unit. And
Ruined everything.
destroyed, just absolute destruction. I lost like a couple thousand books, like complete sets of reptiles of Vivarium magazine that was worth like $5,000. A guitar, a very valuable piano was in there. All my artwork that was on paper, and a lot of it that was on canvas, and all my magazine. So I used to be a weekly feature in like these fishing magazines, fishing newspapers. And I had all the clippings, all the pictures of me and stuff in there from all the fish I was catching. A couple covers, I was on the cover of a couple of them, and I had them all in these little albums, and they all got destroyed.
So it's stuff that it's gone forever, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't digital back then. You couldn't save any of that stuff, right? So that was right before the digital age came in. And it's funny,
based
some of
on
the younger people on these chats, they don't know what that's like.
so based off that experience, I'm assuming
Mhm.
you have every duplicates of everything that you've done that's been backed up on digital format.
Oh, it's all over digital. Yeah. I mean, you post it on social media so that you have it on their social media. And
So
then,
you mentioned photography. Do you also do photography? That's another media that you use for
yeah,
your
yeah,
art.
I do a lot of photography, and I was doing photography because, 35 millimeter film, dark rooms and all that stuff, because that was my references. If I wanted a specific pose for a fish or a reptile, then I'd take a good photo of it, and then I'd use it. So I entered a few I won a few competitions, but for me, art is more what I'm after. I'm not really. I don't like to me, it's not as satisfying to take a photo as it is to create something.
I get it. Yeah.
But
So
no disrespect to photography. I love photography. I got some some friends that have become very accomplished photographers.
Yeah, it's just different media. That's what I was asking. That's what I was curious.
Yeah, it's
Like some
instant. It's
people.
instant media, though. You take it
Yeah,
and it's there.
yeah. So, but because I know people use like they'll prefer acrylics or they'll prefer um, aerosol cans. They prefer, it's just the different forms of expressions. But it's at the end of the day, it's still art because the picture that I take versus the picture that a professional artist will take are two totally different pictures because I don't have that eye to be able to capture what that person is able to do with that instrument. So I mean, it's a different set of skill levels and a different. You got to have a certain eye for these things.
Yeah,
It's just like, for example, I could do a drawing and you could do a drawing, and they're going to be totally distinct just because the abilities and the skills that you've developed over this, time and
yeah.
and
And my style is very different from other artists. Like one artist that I do a lot of shows with is her name is Nori Vossen, and she does a lot of like marine art and stuff. It's hers is more illustrative. Now I do some illustrative, and the majority of my stuff is fine art, and even my illustrative art tends to be more fine art than it is an illustration, And I like to do complex backgrounds and habitats and stuff like that. I like them in different poses, versus being like, sideways.
yeah,
Like, see, I do some illustration. Like, this is a pretty well known
okay,
uh, zebra pleco. That's a lot of people have that on their cars or on the shops, the windows of their shops and fish rooms. And then there's like illustrations. This is an illustrated, but see, my illustrations tend to be not stagnant. They're not sideways.
yeah.
So I'm not saying it's bad. A lot of people just want that stagnant illustration. They just
Well,
want that
there's a
sideways fish.
there's a different type of illustration too, though. That is for like a lot of the book publishing. I was watching. The only reason I know a little bit about that is because I watched an interview that Ivan Mikolich was
Yeah,
talking about.
Mikoji.
Yeah, Mikoji, sorry, and where he was talking about the way that's because he's a photographer, but he was talking about there's certain illustrations, especially when you do for publications and books, that they have to meet these certain criterias where it's a
Yeah,
solid white background. So
it's
it's
got a
just
face. It's got a face to the left. They have the face to the left. You have to show all the fins expanded. And I did an illustration for him just recently of his Oscar. And I'm shipping that to him. He should be getting it next week. So, um, but he commissioned me for that because he wanted my style of work.
yeah.
There's other people that have drawn a book illustration of his fish, but he didn't want that.
Yeah. Well,
And
and one of the things that I'm finding absolutely fascinating because I just started going down this rabbit hole is the whole concept of using art as conservation. And I think you're another person that falls right into that category.
oh
And
yeah,
a lot of it is what he says is if people don't understand what is there, how are you going to protect it? And I think that's a very important message, especially for artists that are choosing. Oh, you're going to point something out?
yeah. That saying comes from the late great mentor of mine. His name is Bob Fenner, but it wasn't for art. It was about aquariums.
Oh, okay.
Because he said, like, why do people keep aquariums? That's the whole reason he came up with that. It's like people would, these PETA people would be like, why do you keep an aquarium? Why would you put it in how are you going to save it if it's not free in the ocean? I go, well, people save what they know, and people know what they see, right? Whether it's art, an aquarium, whatever, right? And then people see what they get access to, right? People don't know what's out in a. If we just blew up a reef right now, well, like
Yeah.
when they used to nuke test coral reefs, we've never seen the stuff that went extinct because of those things.
Yeah.
So we don't have any idea what it is. So if we don't get exposed to that, whether it's through photography, artwork, or aquariums, or habitat vivariums, whatever, then we have no personal reason to try to protect it. And
Yeah,
so,
and that's one of the things, and I don't know, it's just I've loved my my understanding of the hobbies, how they're, that's why that when I saw that super show that you guys are doing, where you guys are incorporating reptiles or incorporating plants or incorporating aquariums and bringing all those, tying them in together, I was, and birds, I was like, what a better way to tie in all these hobbies, because all these hobbies really tie into each other. Nowadays, it's very common to have, if you have aquariums, you have plants. If you have plants, you have reptiles. If you have reptiles, then and it's like a
Oh, and
full
almost
circle.
every reptile keeper I know has a spider, or isopods now, right?
Yeah, and it's so neat that all of it, all of it makes sense because it's an ecosystem. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're trying to reproduce as much as you can of nature indoors, within limits, of course. But you're still trying to capture some of that. And I think it's so true. That it's valid. The more we introduce people to all these different things, the more conscious we're going to be about our own environment and take care of it and appreciate what we have. Because once it's gone, and there's nothing we can do about it
Well,
then.
that's why Michelle Kajman and myself, we created Biotope Aquaristics, which is the whole biotope industry. We I wrote the original definition on the Wikipedia for that, on what a biotope is, and we created a system of categorizing biotopes, whether it's geographical, whether it's specific, whether it's niche, um, or continental. Because like people say, oh, I only keep fish that belong together, and then they have African cichlids, right? And then they got Lake Tanganyika fish together with Lake Malawi fish
Yeah.
and Lake Victoria. And it goes, yeah, but at least it's natural because I have only fish from Africa. I'm like, excuse me,
Yeah.
but those lakes, as close as they are together, not a single species from those lakes lives in
Yeah.
in both lakes, right?
Well, and that's what's kind of neat, that's the growth that I've been seeing, um, on social media, is explaining all these things. Yes, they're from the same geographical area, but the waterways that a lot of these fish are in are very different. And you don't necessarily, just because it's from South America, doesn't mean you're going to find all those South American fish in one waterway. And I
We
think I think as content creators, they're starting to make a little bit more effort in doing a little bit of research, a lot through the programs like what you guys are doing, where you're educating the public and saying, look, yes, these are from this region of the world, but they have very distinct areas within that region.
Oh yeah, there's micro niches within a niche, and there is like for instance, we go out fishing out here. Like my friend owns the Dolphin sport fishing boat.
Okay.
If he goes 100 yards further from the coast and that water drops 150 feet deep, all the fish we catch on that reef are going to be totally different than the ones we were just on. And you'll never find them in the same habitat. But then you go to a public aquarium and they're in the same tank.
Yeah, and that,
And
but again, I guess a lot of that behind that is the more exposure you get to people to the different types of species, the more awareness that you have that they exist. But I think that now it's getting to the point where we as we learn more about these species, that we do our homework and start saying, okay, yeah, these are from the same region, but you know, kind of what you guys are doing, explaining
yeah,
a little bit more in detail,
yeah.
which is
For those
great.
that are interested, that Facebook group is called Biotope Aquaristics. And this is a reminder. Hold on, Alexa, no medication, please. Here's a station. Alexa, stop. Alexa, you're not listening. I'm designed to protect the privacy. Alexa, tell me a joke. What do you call a pretty pig? I don't know what. What? Handsome? Okay, no. All right, Alexa, shut up. Go to sleep. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know how she. I turned that alarm off a long time ago. That take medication thing, and for some reason it keeps coming back.
It's time to take a hit off the bomb.
Yeah, it's time to disconnect Alexa. I think I'm breaking up with you, Alexa.
I'm happy to hear how I can improve. You can always say, I have feedback.
Alexa, good night.
Good night. Sweet dreams.
Now you got everybody that's in the stream that has an Alexa going off.
AI. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Sam, yeah, I know you're a busy, busy man. We've been at it. It doesn't seem that long, but we've been at it for an hour.
Yeah,
Um, you
just
know,
hit an hour.
yeah, I know.
So
And
I
go ahead.
I get booked for like talks across the country, and they tell me I ask them how long do I have, and they're like, I don't know, an hour. You can go an hour and a half if you want. That's dangerous. If they tell me an hour and a half, I could be there for 3 hours, and I'll keep everyone engaged. So I
Yeah.
used to do radio. I used to do
Oh, okay.
Pet World Radio. So that was the biggest aquarium radio show in basically in history, right?
Oh, okay.
And the only one that was even close was Greg Steve's African cichlid one.
Oh, okay.
But Pet World Radio, I worked 5 or 6 days a week, minimum of 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, and occasionally seven because we'd have a special guest from another country.
Oh, okay.
3 hours a day, and it was all ad lib. So it was like, I mean, I'd prep a little bit, like who's this guy that we're going to talk to today, you know?
Yeah.
So, but we basically had all the biggest names. We've had Odd Konings. We've had um, the guy from West Africa, the guys from the Netherlands. We've had guys from Australia. You know, we had every lady Aquarius that was big at the time,
Mm,
and then we got kind of dominated by YouTube when YouTube came out.
yeah. Well, yeah, it did it to most of print
Yeah,
and you know radio media because nowadays any of us can become
yeah.
sort of
I wish I was
influential.
as big as I was on the radio, because on the radio we had 55,000 subscribed people. We're not talking about someone that said like. We're
Yeah.
talking about people that filled out their information and subscribed.
Well, maybe it's time to resurrect it and start doing something
Yeah, not the
similar to
radio. I
that.
don't think I'm going to do radio. Even though radio is kind of resurrecting, but I will definitely be. You'll see, 2024 is going to have a lot of YouTube in it and a lot of
Okay.
social media.
Yeah, and I know it's real difficult for you as busy as you are, but uh, you know, any content you put out, I'm pretty sure people would watch. I know I watch. I follow it. You know, I follow your Instagram account. I follow what you do. You know, when you come up on streams like that, I just realized that I wasn't subscribed to your YouTube channel, and I went and did that a couple of days ago.
Yeah, my YouTube channel is small because I haven't really
Yeah.
put a lot of focus on it, but I appreciate that, and I do appreciate people subscribing and sharing, because once that'll motivate me. The more subscribers I have on there, then the more likely I am to produce content.
Well,
You know, I'm trying.
one of the things that I'm really excited is starting to see you more in live streams,
Yeah.
and I think that's great because it allows you to
Uh-huh.
have some exposure, and you know people recognize the name and the work, but it's really nice to be able to get some time with the artist himself.
Yeah, I enjoy the live streams. I enjoy talking. I enjoy sharing stuff. I enjoy. I worked retail for many, many, many years, many different stores, and that the reason I kept customers from store 1 to store 15 was that they enjoy talking to me, you know, and I enjoy talking to them. I enjoy sharing with them, and I enjoy watching their progress. I'm this is to say it's a passion is an understatement. You know,
Yeah. What's a
it's an
lifestyle
obsession
for
I
you?
have.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's an
lifestyle.
obsession. So,
Yeah, because
and
you're really living the life. I mean, you're 100% in the industry, and all the forms that you've done some of the curating. You're doing the artwork. You're doing some of the conservation. So you know you're really living the life.
I love it. Wouldn't
Well,
have it
Sam,
any other way.
I do thank you so much, especially for such a short notice, reaching out to you and accepting to come on. Um, Normally, I don't have a problem staying that long, but here's a little bit of a, of a background why you hear so much noise out here. I'm actually visiting some friends, and we stayed here a little bit longer than I was expecting to, and so I'm actually I'm visiting friends, and I'm using their network to be able to do the stream. I didn't want to cancel or have to reschedule this at all because I was looking forward to this so much. But I know we have a lot more stuff we could really get into, and so hopefully in the near future we could have you back on and see how some of these progresses are going for some of these shows that are going on, because I'm really interested. One of the things that I've always I lost them. One of the things that I was really interested is and we've complained, not necessarily complained, but something that we voiced quite a bit, is not much going on here in the West Coast. And when I heard Sam talking about these shows that were going on, it really interested me, and I'm intrigued now because I don't know if I know out here we're so used to driving to places that doing a 6-7 hour drive is not out of the question to be able to go to some of these shows. So hopefully that'll happen. But I don't know if he got cut off or what happened, but that was kind of, I wasn't expecting him to. So as a freeloader, yeah, I am today. So I dread having to cut this short today because there's so much we could talk about, but I don't know if it's connection dropped or what happened. But we'll call it here, and thank you guys so much for coming today. I want to thank Jeff for those memberships that he donated. I think it was like 20 of them, because I think it was 10 and then 10, if I'm not mistaken. I saw a couple of super chats. I want to thank you very much for that. You don't have to do that. Just the fact that you guys are here, give me the like. Oh, he's back. Thank you. Let's see if I can get him so that he can get a proper goodbye before we leave out of here. Let me see what's going on, because I know we had a little bit of an issue at the beginning with his connection. Because only 48 cards. Let me see. Okay. And you play partners. Try to see if I can get a hold of him on my runs and marriages and double pinochle, the pinochle. Where you get that? Sorry about the awkward silence, but I'm trying to type to him. See. Yeah, you can buy them at the store, but it's just they have two of everything. It says, "Tell everyone my phone shut off, but thanks for watching." Okay, so he just texted me. I guess he's having his phone died on him, but I just want to thank you. This is one of the ones that I regret not being able to stay a little bit longer. But then again, I am just so thankful that I was allowed to take time from our gathering to be able to do this, because this is not a stream that I wanted to have to reschedule at all. I was really looking forward to talking to Sam, and luckily we did. I feel like it was a little bit inconclusive, but that's okay, because that gives us an opportunity to revisit this. So with that said, thank you guys all for being here. Jeff, thank you so much for that super sticker. And we'll see you guys soon. There's a couple of people that I've got lined up just next week. Yeah, Ross. Ross is going to be one of the next ones that I'll be having on, and then outside in. There he is. He's back. Yeah. Hey, Sam.
Yes, sorry. Like this update started happening, and I tried to turn it off, and it started going instead.
Yeah, no worries. I really wanted you to be able to have an opportunity to have a proper goodbye before we jumped out of here. Like I was telling him, I kind of feel this was a little bit rushed, but it's just my circumstances right now are a little bit awkward. But I'm happy because it allows us to come back and revisit some of these things. I'm really interested in seeing how we can help as a community to promote the events that are going on here in the West Coast. Anything that I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. I'm looking forward to it. I've already talked to my wife that we're going down there this summer to that super show, and I don't want to miss that. That's I'm always talking about going to these events. Finally, I get one in my backyard. It's relatively close for me. It's only like a 5-hour drive, maybe less for me.
Yeah,
so.
I know, it's funny, right? That's for you. That's like we say that it's only this, only that. But I hear people like that live in Florida that literally live an hour and a half away from Aquashell, and they're like, "That's too far."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What are you guys talking about, man? It's like it's literally a couple drives back and forth to the grocery store. Like."
Yeah, I know, and that's what I was saying. I think out here in the West Coast, we're a little bit more accustomed to driving a little bit further distance to go to stuff. So
like
for me,
like the Bay Area for me is like it's 7.5 hours, so it's like
yeah.
But I go up
it's
and
a day
back.
drive. Yeah, you can do that in a day. Get there and still be able to enjoy whatever it is you're
go
doing.
up, hang out for a party, and then come back down.
Well, Sam, like I said, anything you want to say to the people before we jump off of here?
Thank you guys again for jumping on and listening and watching, supporting Mexicali, and thank you for having me.
Any
I encourage you all to go to those shows, if any show that you can get to, and don't forget, my links are there in the comments. So if you want to contact me for any artwork or anything, if you can't make it to a show and you want to get some art, just contact me directly and I'll ship it to you. I have a couple packages I still have sitting here that I'm shipping out to people that ordered during that 24-hour live stream that they did. And so if you guys are waiting for those, they're still on the way. Don't worry about it. It's just I've been busy preparing for Aquashella. And I think Zen Ginger asked about Biotope Aquaristics. And that is only on Facebook because I'm not the only one that runs it. So it's run internationally. I'm just a U.S. representative for the Biotope community.
Yeah. So, all right. So, any chances that you'll be doing any live streams on your platform?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing that. I'll be doing it on both on Instagram and on YouTube.
Okay.
Who's actually inspired me is Eddie Elijah.
Yes.
um,
Vibes Aquatic. All right.
yeah, I'm like, man, if this guy can do it, and he's got the time to do it, I got to do it.
Oh yeah. I mean,
So,
it's the hardest one is doing the first one, and then after that, it just
yeah.
becomes easier and easier every time.
Yeah,
But
I've done. I mean, I've done hundreds and hundreds of live streams, but it's always on someone else's channel.
Yeah.
So, basically, ever since live streams started, I was doing them on some of the early. I've done stuff with Joey and with some other people. I will be doing. Actually, I tell you what, November will be the launch of my official live streaming from the different platforms.
Perfect.
And the reason why is because it's going to be at Ohio Fish Rescue.
Oh, nice.
So if anyone doesn't know what Ohio Fish Rescue is, it's this amazing place in Strongsville, Ohio, that takes in unwanted or overgrown fish. And then they distribute them to other aquarists or to public aquariums. So sometimes they'll take pacus that are like 30 pounds, 40 pounds, and then they send them to a zoo in St. Louis or something, And so it's an amazing facility. They have aquariums ranging in size from like 60 gallons all the way up to 4,500 gallons. And then they have a 58,000 gallon pool that has mega monster fish in it.
You swimming in it?
I go swimming in with them. So I swim with them and I feed them by hand and by fishing rod. Just no hooks, just fishing rod with line. And then I'll be live streaming those things throughout the event. I'll be there at the end of November.
Okay.
I'll put plenty of advertisements about when that's happening.
Yeah, I'll send me a link and I'll share that up to you for you too.
Oh yeah, I hope to have hundreds of people watching that. So,
Well, sir,
no, I
thank
will
you.
not be skinny dipping. But I will be feeding arapaima and alligator gars and giant catfish. I'll stay out of the stingray pool.
Yeah, that sometimes doesn't work out too well.
No.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for giving me this time, and I'll be seeing you around. I know it's not the last time we'll be on screen together for sure.
For sure, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you guys for the super chats and the super stickers. I appreciate that, and we'll see you guys soon. You guys take care.
Take care, everybody.